Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Wednesday, the morning after Arsenal's 0-0 draw with Newcastle at the Emirates. Apologies, didn't get to do anything video-wise after the game. Last night's pretty mad, as you can imagine, so I couldn't have time to it, so I'll do my player ratings at some point in the sort of middle of this video. Talk about the game and the big sort of talking points from it. It was a weird one, I thought, last night. I thought it was a good game, first of all. I thought it was two really, really well-drilled teams. Tactically, it was very good. You can absolutely see why both teams are right up the top of the table and have only lost one game each all season. I thought it was two very differing styles, obviously. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You had on one hand, you had Arsenal who were trying to play all the football. On the other hand, you had Newcastle who were trying to stop all the football, and they did it really, really well. That is not a dig at Newcastle by any means. I thought Newcastle were excellent on the whole last night. They had a clear game plan. They didn't want Arsenal to get into their stride, and you can see why Newcastle do not concede many goals. They are exceptionally well drilled defensively. I thought Kieran Trippier was excellent, Botman was excellent, and they managed to see off Arsenal, and I think they deserve an awful lot of credit for that. I didn't think Arsenal played badly by any means. I thought they deserved to win. They just couldn't take the sort of half chances that came their way. You think of the Martinelli glancing header, you think of the Nketiah shot right at the end, which Nick Pope saved really well. That real intense burst for the first 15 minutes when Arsenal were electric and Newcastle were just about hanging on. You know, if a goal goes in, then the game could have been very, very different. And of course, the penalty instance, which I'll get to in later on in this video. So I just thought it was a really interesting game to watch, and on a lot of levels, tactically, physically, and I thought both teams came out of it pretty well, to be honest. Yes, Arsenal, of course, you want to win a game, no doubt about it. But I think in a game like that as well, when you're battling a team up at the top of the table, it's vitally important that you also don't lose. And they didn't lose. They kept up their unbeaten run. Newcastle did the same, and you just kind of move on from that. I think the way things have gone for Arsenal this season, it almost feel. I remember after the Southampton game, the 1-1, it just felt so disappointing because they hadn't won, because we're so used to them winning now. But you can't win every game, of course, and you know what Arsenal have been doing this season has been utterly remarkable results wise, and draws are going to happen. It's football. It does happen. You drop points, and this was the first time Arsenal had done it at home. They could have easily walked away with all three of them, but it just didn't happen. It's the way football goes. And I thought it was a good game, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and have a go at Arsenal for anything that they did in that performance. It would have been nice, perhaps, to have a little bit more off the bench, but that is the way of the squad at the moment when things aren't going to plan, so to speak. There's not much to change it. That's just the way things are going, and something I'll get to in this video as well when we look at what Mikel Arteta had to say about that game. But I thought there were lots of good performances from Arsenal still. I thought Eddie Nketiah played really, really well. Again, it seems like if Arsenal don't score, if Arsenal don't win, it seems like just there's a section of people, and I hate talking and saying the phrase on social media, because social media is not what you should judge football by any means. In fact, it's almost you should judge it by the opposite of what people were saying on social media, because so many people talk such rubbish on that platform. But it's weird. You say it's if Arsenal aren't scoring goals, or they don't win a game, or they're playing. It seems like the thing is, blame Eddie Nketiah. It's like I don't get it. I thought he played really, really well. I thought it was a classic. Looking at that performance last night from Eddie, I thought it just highlighted perfectly how much he has come on in the last 12 months or so. His all-round game, I thought he ran the line superbly. He caused Newcastle lots of problems with his movement. He was on the shoulder. He got in behind. He dragged players out of position. And I tweeted about it, and people were replying to my tweet saying, "Oh, we missed Jesus pulling people out of position." And I thought, I don't get it, because I thought Nketiah was doing that last night. And you know, if he'd have got his goal at the end when the shot was saved, I think it would have capped what was a really, really good performance. So, I've got no issue with how Eddie Nketiah played last night. I thought Gabriel was brilliant at centre-back, and I thought he was brilliant in the for the large majority of the game against Brighton as well. I thought he was playing very, very well. I thought he was great. I thought Thomas Partey was great once again. And you know, it wasn't a bad performance by Arsenal. It was just they came up with it. It's a very strong team, brilliant defensively, and unfortunately they just couldn't find a way to break them down. But performance-wise, I don't think there was anything to really criticise Arsenal for in that performance. Speaking after it, Mikel said, "I'm really proud of the way we played, the way we dominated the game. We lacked that spark in the final third to find the opening or the extra pass and a little bit of finishing quality. We had a lot of situations around the box to do better, and then there were the 2 scandalous penalties. Both of them, it's not particular, it's a penalty or not a penalty, and these are both penalties." So let's talk about the penalty decisions, shall we? The scandalous penalties, as Mikel Arteta said. He certainly wanted to make that point yesterday. He said it in all the interviews he did with the various TV channels. He did it with the written media with us afterwards in the press conference as well, using that word scandalous. So was it scandalous? Well, I'll start with the handball. I am not surprised that wasn't given. I don't think you can say that's a scandalous decision. It hits his hand, no doubt about it. On another day, you could have got that decision. But looking at it, I'm not surprised it wasn't given either, because he was very, very close to Granit Xhaka when the ball hit Murphy. It hit sort of around here rather than on the hand that was really outside. I'm just not surprised. You absolutely have every right to scream and shout and call for a penalty in that decision, in that scenario. But I don't think you look at that and think that's a scandalous decision. I think some days you get it, some days you don't. The other one, on the other hand, Gabriel, when he was pulled back by Dan, I mean, how on earth that is not a penalty, I will never know. It was a scandalous decision. I mean, the replays show it all. I saw Gary Neville pointed out in his analysis afterwards that he said that the Emirates, the sponsorship logo, was actually on his back by the time, he'd really sort of got a hold of him. That's how much of a shirt pull it was, that the shirt had been twisted round so that Emirates was on his back. I mean, how is that not a penalty? He'd got away from Dan Burn, he was ahead of him, and he got pulled back, plain and simple. And I don't really... Look, Andy Madley, it was a shambolic refereeing performance. He was awful from start to finish. But I don't really blame him in that position, because it's really hard. It's a congested box. The ball's coming in. You can't see everything. It's difficult. But how VAR do not just say, hold on, we've got to have a look at this. There is a pretty blatant shirt pull in this. Maybe you want to go and have a look. That's who I'm blaming for that exact decision. Not so much the referee, because those can be missed. Those sort of things can be missed. But when VAR is there and the video evidence is so strong, I just don't get how it can't be given. And I'm not surprised Mikel Arteta was fuming afterwards. And Gabriel was. When he saw Gabriel, he tweeted the video of it on his Twitter account. He clearly felt it was a penalty, and it was a penalty. And it just summed up the officials on the night. I thought they were really, really poor. I thought Newcastle, they tried every trick in the book. And I don't blame Newcastle for that. I think it's just where Newcastle are. I think you look back where Newcastle were 12 months ago, they were looking certainties for relegation, and now they're third in the Premier League. They've gone to Arsenal and drawn without conceded. They went to Old Trafford and drew without conceded. They went to Spurs and won. They've beaten Chelsea at home without conceding. They're just a very good, well-oiled machine under Eddie Howe, who don't concede many goals. And the way they're playing at the moment, it may not be the prettiest on the eye. And I don't think what they did last night was what they've done the whole season either. They've played some good football this season, but last night they clearly wanted to disrupt Arsenal. They wanted to waste time. They wanted to, put every sort of trick in the book into play to try and get the result that they needed. And they did that. And the referee allowed them to do that because he was so poor. It was clear in the first half he was going to be bullied, and that he was able to be bullied. And once both teams, not just Newcastle, once both teams worked that out, then the game became pretty horrible as a result, because it was just constant fouls and calling for yellow cards and everything, and it sort of ruined the spectacle a little bit. And that was the referee's fault, because he just lost control of it. And I thought it was really, really poor. I mean, how at 5 minutes stoppage time at the end of that game was just an absolute joke, considering how many subs were made for a start. But then you add the time wasting onto it. I mean, it could have easily been 10, 12, 15. If that was in the World Cup, the way that they were doing the timing at the World Cup games, there would have been 15 minutes of injury time at the end of that second half. Such was the extent of the time wasting and the players going down and everything like that. So yeah, really poor from the referee, I thought. And the penalty incident, certainly the Gabriel one, was just kind of summed up the night that the officials had. You could see how frustrated Mikel Arteta was. I mean, just by those quotes there that he said about the scandalous thing, but you saw at the end him and Eddie Howe were squaring up, and that was as a result of the handball thing. And there was a lot of pressure being put on the fourth official. I think I saw Alan Shearer talking about it afterwards, saying that Arteta needs to look at himself, and that the way he handles things on the touchline. Him and Eddie House growing up, he said afterwards, he said, look, it's a football match. It's very competitive, the way we play, the way they play. We're close in the table, and that is the beauty of this league. We threw everything at them to get the points. You could see the team was doing everything. We lacked that little bit in the final third, and then we lacked the big decisions, obviously. So he wasn't making too big a thing of it. And Eddie Howe in the press conference afterwards, when he sat down with us, didn't make too big a thing of it either. He said, look, it just happens in football. We're fine, me and Mikel. And it was just one of those things. And yeah, I mean, let me know what you guys thought of it all, obviously, in the comments below. I'm going to do my player ratings now. I'm going to rattle through them because I didn't get time to do them last night at the game itself. So this is what I gave. I gave Ramsdale 6 just because he didn't really do too much in the game. I can barely think of a save he had to make. I think there was one in the first half that was a very comfortable save straight at him. Other than that, all he had to do was deal with crosses, and which he did relatively well. When he had his ball at his feet, he looked a little bit nervy, almost got caught in possession one time in the second half. So I gave Ramsdale 6. White, I gave a 7. Saliba, I gave a 7. Saliba looked better than what we've seen the last couple of games. I thought White played really well. I mean, White's really pushing an 8 there. I think if he'd have stayed on for longer, I'd have given White an 8 because I thought he played well. But Gabriel gave an 8. I thought he was brilliant. He was my man of the match, Gabriel. I thought he was fantastic for Arsenal. He got an 8. Zinchenko a 7. Partey an 8. Xhaka a 7. Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, all 7s. And I gave Nketiah an 8. I just thought he played really well. And it seems like not everyone shares that view, judging by the response I got on Twitter when I tweeted it. But I thought he played really well. I thought it was a really strong all-round performance from Eddie Nketiah. And so, yeah, he gets an 8 from me. Let me know what you guys think. Who was your man of the match? Who performed, who didn't perform? Let me know in the comments below. Speaking of afterwards, Arteta was asked about the fact that he'd only made 1 sub, and was it a sign that more transfers are needed, that he didn't have options to change things off the bench? When he was asked about only making 1 sub, he said, we were chasing the goal, we were in a good moment, I didn't want to make any changes, which is understandable. And I think the only change you really could have made was obviously Fabio Vieira. It costs a lot of money, playmaker, can make things happen. We've seen him score goals this season, and so that is a change that could have been made, but I'm not surprised he didn't make it, to be honest. That game was so physical, it was so nasty, it was challenges flying in everywhere. Fabio Vieira at the moment just is a little bit lightweight, there's no doubt about that, and it did not feel to me like a game for Fabio Vieira in that last 25 minutes or so when Newcastle were flying into everything, the crowd was up. And maybe that is a bit of a criticism in a way of Vieira, because if you spend that sort of money on a playmaker, as someone who can make something happen in the final third, if things aren't happening on the pitch, then surely he should be coming on. But I just didn't feel it was a game for Fabio Vieira. It just felt like one that he would get swamped by the aggressiveness of Newcastle and wouldn't really make much of an impact. And I don't think anyone was playing particularly badly on the pitch. He could have possibly replaced Odegaard or Xhaka, but I'm not sure. It didn't feel to me like it was one for Fabio Vieira. So I'm not surprised really that Mikel didn't make a sub. But I think what it certainly did show is that the lack of attacking options are stark at the moment, and that with Eddie Nketiah playing, because Jesus is injured, there's no one to replace Eddie. So this is a sort of game when it was, if Jesus was playing, you'd throw on Eddie for the last half an hour and try and change things, potentially pair him together with Gabriel Jesus, change it that way. But you can't do that now because there's only one of them, and there's no one who can really come on and replace Martinelli and Bukayo Saka. I thought either of those players could have been replaced in the second half had there been a viable alternative on the bench. I thought Trippier was brilliant against Martinelli, the best has been against Martinelli this season from a defensive point of view. And Saka again, who he worked hard as he always does, and he got a little bit of joy, but still it wasn't at his very best. And you could have possibly replaced him if there was someone like there, but there just isn't. And I think it just sums it up. He was asked afterwards, Mikel, would it have helped if you'd have got someone in transfer-wise before tonight's game? He said, I don't know, that's something more for Edu and the board to respond to. We are really trying to improve the squad in every window. We're trying our best because we cannot waste any windows still with the squad and the numbers that we have. We will try. It's blatantly obvious. I mean, I think Shakhtar Donetsk would have been delighted with that game last night and will be eagerly awaiting Arsenal's next phone call. I'm still not sure if that bid's been rejected yet. I'm still trying to find out the second bid. But I mean, it's going to really strengthen their position. They'll be looking at that and thinking, yeah, Arsenal need reinforcements. They need attacking options. This is why we're not just going to give Mudryk away, because Arsenal are in a position where they really, really need him. And it's just going to strengthen their position and strengthen their resolve in terms of holding out for a higher transfer fee from Arsenal. There's a big gap now until the Tottenham game because of the FA Cup this weekend, obviously. And you feel like before that Tottenham game, something needs to give in the transfer market for Arsenal. I've got a really difficult month coming up, some tricky games, Spurs and then Man United. Manchester City's just on the horizon now in the sort of mid-February. They need to get someone through the door who can make a difference, and there's no doubt that Mudryk can make a difference. And if Arsenal had him on the bench last night, it could have been a different story, because he is someone who can come on and you think could change things because of his pace, because of his quality, because of his eye for a goal. So yeah, interesting to see how things go, but I haven't got any developments on that. But do keep an eye on my social media channels, and if I do get any developments on the Mudryk story, I will of course let you know as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please do hit me up in the comments below anything you've seen, heard, disagreed with, agreed with in this video. Anything you want to get off your chest about last night's game, then please do get into the comments below and have your say. Thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you soon, everyone. Enjoy your day.